So the next thing I want to make sure we talk a little bit about is the Colorado Fair Plan. So this is something that's new to Colorado. It was based on some legislation. My understanding is it's supposed to be enacted in 2025. Now, whether or not that's going to be January 1st or more towards the middle or the end of the year is TBD. But it does provide a secondary option for Coloradans. And much like California and Florida, they do have these state-run plans. We're now starting to see this here in our state, which is great because you don't want to see anybody be denied by insurance. Now, my understanding is, to be eligible is you have to be denied by 3 other carriers for insurance before you can go to the FAIR plan. Now, it's not like your first call, it should be like your 4th or 5th call, right? And so I'd like to hear a little bit more about what you folks know about this, Jennifer and Dusty, in terms of what people can expect out of this plan, at least what's out there in the industry right now.
Well, I think that it's going to offer relief for some people who have found themselves in the position where they cannot find one single other carrier to insure them. So I'm encouraged by that, that it will offer some relief for folks. I'll also stress that they have conveyed to us that it is designed to meet eligibility, not affordability. And so I think it's a misnomer for folks to think that the FAIR plan is going to open and, your rates with a traditional carrier are X, Y, and Z. To think that the FAIR plan is going to be your option to go to get cheap coverage. From everything we've been told, we don't believe that that's going to be the case yet. We've not yet seen numbers, but they've kind of conveyed that information. Also, kind of noted on those slides, you see that there is a maximum coverage of $750,000. And most homes up here are much higher than that. We don't quite know what challenge that will present with regards to folks that have mortgages. Usually when you have a mortgage, you are required to have coverage for the total mortgage amount. And so if folks are buying houses in the $1 million level, that leaves a pretty big gap between that $750,000 and whatever their house value is and potentially what their mortgage is. Also, we believe it is an actual cash value policy. Dusty did a great job earlier talking a little bit about what that means. So rather than them replacing your house, the value would be depreciated over time. So your 30-year-old roof probably is at its lifespan. And so if you had a loss, they're probably not going to pay you anything for that. I don't know specifics about how, they would depreciate it down, but that is a consideration there. So I think it will address some of the needs, but it's yet to be said, will it address all the needs? Will there be other carriers who come in and fill that gap between that $750,000 and what the need is? I'll also highlight that coverage maximum, we believe, will be total coverage. So Dusty and I both kind of highlighted a couple of coverages under your policy, not just your dwelling, so not just your structure, but your personal property, that additional code coverage, loss of use coverage. So what we believe is that maximum of $750,000 is inclusive of anything that they would pay out. Whereas most traditional policies now that are replacement coverage policies are much more robust. So kind of our perspective is we're happy that it is coming about because we feel like it will meet a need for folks who are in that situation where they can't find one single carrier. But I think it's important for people to go into knowing very clearly what their coverages are and what potential gaps may be present because they do go to a FAIR plan policy.
So that's interesting. So that insurance, that $750,000 is not only the house, but the contents too, right?
That's what we've been told. So there at the top of that slide, it mentions the website. And so, kind of through the grapevine, we get little bits of information that's coming out, but I believe that is kind of where things last sat, was a max coverage of $750,000 all inclusive.
Yes, I have heard also that with the $750,000, if your house value is over, you can buy essentially an excess plan, meaning if you have a gap in coverage from your dwelling to what your mortgage is, or even the value of your house, you can buy an excess policy that will cover that difference. I would highly suggest before you, if anybody was considering the FAIR plan when it comes out is to go to their website. I was actually kind of surprised when I looked at it this last time. It's very blunt that it says it is a last resort and it is going to be probably your most expensive option. It says that you should definitely, go to your standard carriers, go to your excess lines before you go here, because it will be on the more expensive side with very poor coverage.
Sure. And the other thing you have to think about too is if you simply cannot get insurance and you have a mortgage, the mortgage company will place a forced insurance policy on your home. And those aren't going to be cheap either. So if you have to compare that program versus the Colorado Fair Plan, it might be better off than not having insurance at all. Certainly self-insuring is a very expensive proposition, but when you have a mortgage, you do have to have an insurance policy. And, when we talk about this 750, I didn't even consider the fact that that would be part of the contents too. So think about your pots, your pans, your shoes, your underwear, your, everything that's in your house, all that contents would have to be replaced too, right? And, when we look at the average price of homes up here, I just pulled a report showing the median price of homes just this year, and we've had depressed sales, not as much activity in 2024. But we're right at that 750. But in years past, where we've had very robust real estate markets, it's easily been 900 to $1 million. And there's certainly many, many houses above that number in terms of value. And that doesn't even consider the rebuild cost and the contents. So understanding what those secondary options are to bridge that gap, I think is going to be really important for us to look at so that homeowners aren't left without any sort of coverage. So.
Other thing that I've had insureds that cannot find insurance currently, they're like, well, we'll just let the mortgage place insurance. The insurance that the mortgage company is going to place, one, is very expensive, but it actually doesn't cover anything but their mortgage amount. So if you have a total loss, you're not getting anything out of that insurance company that the mortgage company placed. There's no personal property, there's none of that. Essentially, it covers that mortgage loan, it covers their risk that they have out on you.
Yeah, great point. Well, also, great things for us to learn about. I'd encourage everybody to go to that Colorado Fair Plan. It sounds like they're constantly updating the website too, as they're, making adjustments to their plans as well. So great resource for everybody to take a look at. Hopefully you don't have to use it, but it's good to have that safety net.